Next up, we have Johan Reyneke. He almost needs no introduction. I'm sure all of you know him well. He's a pioneer in sustainable viticulture and I think the first biodynamically certified vineyard. And he is super passionate about farming holistically with nature and creating wines that truly reflect the land they come from. So thank you, Johan. We're looking forward to hearing your story.
Thanks, Emma. Just on the theft, we farm with Ngunis, and you must try and steal a Nguni. Halakani. Okay, I'm going to not do a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not very good at it, so if you don't mind, I'm going to leave Bertie's up there. No, please leave him up there. Yeah, it's beautiful. I like that. The lake is a praying mantis. Okay, I'm also mindful of the time. I see we're about half an hour over, so I'm going to have another opportunity this afternoon for those of you who are coming to the farm, so I'm going to try and keep it kind of shortish. I was asked to say things about compost and biochar, and how we use them and why we use them. I know there's been a lot of comments on compost, so I'll probably start there and move on to biochar sooner. So for us, the composting is really basic. It's definitely not our main focus of our business. We're essentially certified as an organic and a biodynamic farm, and if you're organic, I think it's about being sustainable, and if you're biodynamic, it's about being self-sufficient. So you try to create this circular economy on your farm where everything feeds off each other, but I think our main focus is still viticulture and winemaking, and everything else has to kind of fit in with that, and that would include the compost. So the materials we use would be all the waste products that we get on the farm. That's compostable. So it really starts with how we live in the houses. Everybody on the farm has a bin to put all their kitchen scraps in. At the wine cellar, all the grapes or the pips and the stems and the skins and everything is collected. There's a grey and a black water system from all the housing and the cellar, and this water is then used for the compost making. Wood chips, alien trees that we remove. We're part of the Bottlerij Bavaria, which is a great initiative. There's a lot of alien trees and wood chips and things that we use. And then sometimes also other people's organic matter. Like I see, if you know, Somerset West, not far from here, people love to thatch their roofs, and after 20 or 30 years, that thatch doesn't really do the job anymore, and they have to pay to get rid of it, and they can come and drop it with us for free. And we generally work with a ratio of 1 to 30, 1 part nitrogen, 30 parts carbon, and it's very basic. We just layer a layer, wet it thoroughly, build a windrow, insert the biodynamics compost preps, and then we leave it there. We'll turn it once, and we will then, when we do our weed management in sort of August, September, we also use a Clemens like you do, Kane, and it's quite amazing because it creates this sort of wave under the vine row. And the idea is that you don't really want to have the weed competition, but you also don't want to leave the soil bare. And what this Clemens does is it literally just cuts the roots off the weeds, and it looks like you've wasted your time. But then after about 3 or 4 days, they all start wilting because you've removed their root systems. But just prior to that action, we'll take literally a trailer and by hand put a spade full of compost between each vine, and then as this Clemens goes through, it just sort of shakes it in. The biochar is quite similar, but different. So on a farm, there are always pieces that are too big to compost. So if we have an oak lane, where there are big branches that fall off that we can't really chip and put into our composting system. Or sometimes we remove an old vineyard, for example, and there would be wires in the vines, and you couldn't really chip these for obvious reasons and put that in your composting system. So what biochar is it's similar to charcoal, except it happens at a slightly higher temperature. And the idea is that instead of putting CO2 into the atmosphere, we basically build this biochar. It's an old product that was extensively used in the Amazon forest, but it really looks like charcoal. It's incredibly porous. They say about a teaspoon of biochar has got about the surface area of a rugby field, believe it or not. And it's incredibly effective in terms of nutrient, air, and moisture retention. So one must be careful. Jaco and I spoke about it earlier. I used to just put wood chips under my vines in the past. And the problem was that one can quite easily create a nitrogen deficit. And the same with biochar. So I definitely wouldn't just put it in the vineyards. We also, as you know by now, farm with cattle, high-density grazing. We farm with Nguni's, also for theft, but primarily because the manure is so valuable. We kraal them every evening. And then what we do with all this biochar is we essentially just put this in the kraal, and it helps a lot, especially this time of the year when it's wet and it's raining all the time. The biochar absorbs a lot of that moisture, but also the nutrients from the manure. And then when we build compost the following year, we take all the kraal matter and all the raw material that we got from the farm, and we build these windrows, and from there on, it goes back into the vineyards. So it's a super basic system, how we make the compost, how we do the biochar. Okay, maybe just a bit more detail on that. There's a company here in Technopark in Stellenbosch, but they work all over the Western Cape. I've got Vian's number if any of you are interested. But they come with this little mobile kiln. It's essentially just like a few plates of steel. And you take whatever you want to. It can be vines that you've removed or pieces of the oak lane or whatever, and you put it in the kiln. And then it literally takes two guys a few days to get lots and lots and lots and lots of biochar. And it's super easy. It takes a few minutes or an hour or so. They smother it with a bit of water, and within a couple of hours you can literally pick everything up and put it in bags. You can actually sequester it into buildings. You can build it into floors, into walls if you want to do so, and sequester that carbon permanently. But I think as a farmer, especially if you want to have this sort of concept of self-sufficiency or this idea of a circular economy, I find it better to really recycle everything that we can on the farm itself. So if I may, I sat here earlier, and I mean, we're a big group, but we're actually a kind of a small group, if you think about it. And I looked at Etienne's stats, and only 3% of our industry really doing this. And I wondered why. Why are there so few of us? And I thought of the guy who taught me karate for many years, Sensei Bakis Loubser. And he always said, there's 1,000 reasons not to do something. And you can find them quite easily. But if you really want to do something, you'll find a way to do it. And then I thought of two other people that I also have a lot of respect for. One would be Nietzsche, and the other one would be Viktor Frankl. And they said the same thing. They said if you understand the why, you will figure out the how. So the best way that I could sort of come up with now is, why don't people want to do this? And I think primarily 3 reasons. And I think it's money, and I think it's power, and I think it's belief system. So I myself don't want to part with my money or my power or my belief system. I mean, I spend a lot of time getting all of those in place, and it's really not easy for me to let them go. And I kind of suspect it's similar for most of you and probably most of the farmers in the Western Cape, but in my experience, if you look at money, we've been doing this now for 25 years, and I can honestly tell you that we're farming for cheaper and our yields are higher. And I'll give you a simple equation. I'm supposed to talk about biochar and compost today. On 40 hectares, I used to spend about 100,000 rands a year on fertilizer. And then when I wanted to go to certified organic or biodynamic or whatever, I had to pay a 30% premium for certified organic fertilizer. I got the bill yesterday, and it is 16,000 rands. And all that is for the machines to turn the compost and to load it onto the trailers for us to spread. Where I live, which is Polkadry, not far from here, the conventional yield, I think, is about 8 tons per hectare. Admittedly, when we did the transition, we went down to about 5 or 6. But the last couple of years, we've been getting 8. And in some vineyards, it's quite high as 10 or 11, which is perhaps not ideal from a quality point of view, but definitely helps with the numbers and the money and the finance. The power part, you know, I think what I wrote here was you own the means of production. You empower yourself as a farmer because, you know, everything we do to farm these days we have to buy. And a lot of the people who own the stuff that we have to buy are multinational companies or big ones, and they want hard currency. So they want to be paid in dollars or euros or whatever, and it's becoming more and more expensive for us as farmers to survive, whether it's fertilizer or Roundup or pesticides or herbicides or fungicides. It's so difficult to actually stay ahead of those increasing production costs. But if you farm in the way that Bertie does and Kane does and I do, you actually get to own your production costs. And it just gives you the power back as a farmer. And then the last one was this concept of the belief system. And it depends what motivates you, but, you know, farming, I don't want to use the word conventional farming, but like just normal farming, is unfortunately one of the 5 biggest drivers of climate change. And most of us have kids and we want them to have a bright future. But if you farm in this way that we are proposing that you farm today, you effectively get one of the 5 strongest levers to do something positive about it. And you become a part of the solution to do things better. But it's not just a question of mitigation, it's also adaptation. So 25 years ago when I started, I had this smart doctor from Geisenheim coming, Dr. Uwe Hofmann, and he said to me, if you can increase your soil humus levels with 5%, which I know is hard to do in South Africa, we also started with 0.5 or 0.7, the resilience of your vines increased by as much as 300%. So what you sit with is we sit with more erratic rainfall patterns, we sit with more pressure for erosion, we have a shorter time to catch the water. And when you farm like this, you have all of those abilities. You reduce erosion, your soil's water retention ability improves, you have plants that have become much more resilient against, you know, pests and disease and all kinds of things. So honestly, I think it's, you know, it's not just sort of doing it for the greater good, but doing it for yourself as a farmer. And then the last thing is just this idea of consumption and production. It makes no sense growing stuff that people don't want to buy. And we looked also at Etienne's stats really early on, and there's an incredible change in consumption patterns across the world. And people want more sustainable food and wine and things like that. So I would say grow them what they need. This is a good way to do it. And then just finally, for us at Reyneke, it's not a perfect system. You'll see this afternoon, there are many challenges, lots of room for improvement, but on the whole, I would say our soil our yields, our wine quality, and the profitability of our business has actually improved over the last 25 years. Okay, I don't know why I'm sounding so serious. Maybe I'll get Bertie to come tell us another joke. Okay, that's me for now. Thank you. Thank you.